It's the clash of Britain's countryside against the halls of Westminster, and Jeremy Clarkson is leading the charge in a full-throttle attack against what he describes as Labour's ethnic cleansing of rural Britain. In a shocking and rage-filled tirade, the outspoken Clarkson's farm star accuses Labour of implementing inheritance tax policies that will, in his words, push farmers off their land to make way for new towns of immigrants and sprawling green energy projects. Clarkson, who has never shied away from controversy, is now openly declaring war on Chancellor Rachel Reeves and Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, taking his grievances from the fields of his farm to the streets of London. And just as the dust was settling from his fiery words, Clarkson has revealed that he will stand shoulder to shoulder with independent farmers in a massive protest planned for November 19. The usually irreverent Clarkson has turned deadly serious, promising to fight for the very soul of Britain's rural community, while critics accuse him of whipping up fear and division. But is this simply a matter of harsh tax policies, or is Clarkson exposing a darker agenda aimed at transforming Britain's countryside forever? Get ready, because we're diving into every explosive detail, and you won't believe what's coming next. It all began with a shock move from Labour's Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who, as part of her recent budget, capped the amount of agricultural assets that can be passed down tax-free at £1 million. This measure, which eliminates previous spousal sharing of tax relief, has sent shockwaves through the farming community. What Reeves described as a necessary restructuring of the tax system to close loopholes has, for Clarkson and many farmers, sounded the death knell for family-owned farms across Britain. Clarkson argues that the cap could force farmers to sell their land to meet the inheritance tax obligations, which he sees as part of a broader, calculated strategy to erase rural life and make way for a new, urbanised countryside. In his latest Sun column, Clarkson pulls no punches, accusing Labour of turning a blind eye to the lives of British farmers to push forward a modernised countryside vision that includes wind farms, carbon-neutral infrastructure, and what he sees as new towns of immigrants. Clarkson brands the policy as ethnic cleansing, claiming that Labour's plans are not just anti-farmer, but a deliberate attempt to displace traditional British communities in favour of a new, urbanised demographic. The controversy exploded after Clarkson mockingly questioned why the National Farmers Union, NFU, Britain's primary advocacy group for farmers, was forced to call off a planned protest in London due to legal reasons. The protest, initially scheduled for November 19th, was meant to be a bold statement against Labour's inheritance tax measures. However, Clarkson suggests that the cancellation would not have happened if the protest had been on behalf of pro-Palestine demonstrators or eco-activist groups like Just Stop Oil. His argument: the government has taken measures to stifle rural voices while greenlighting other demonstrations, further underscoring his claims of a Labour-led agenda to erase British farming culture. As a result, independent farmers have organised their own protest for the same date, November 19th, a rally Clarkson has now pledged to attend. Vowing to stand with farmers, Clarkson argues that the countryside faces a grave threat. This isn't just about taxes, Clarkson warns in his column. This is about the future of Britain's food security, heritage, and way of life. According to him, the Labour government's policies are part of a broader attack on rural Britain, with Reeves and Starmer focused on paving the way for new urbanised developments on land that's been traditionally held by family farms. But what exactly does Labour have to say about all this? In response to the outcry, Chancellor Reeves released a statement arguing that Clarkson and others are fear-mongering and twisting the facts, pointing to data suggesting that nearly 73% of farms would remain unaffected by the inheritance tax cap. But Clarkson wasn't buying it. He claimed that Labour's statistics fail to account for the soaring market value of even the most modest farmlands, which pushes many family farms above the £1 million threshold. In his Sun column, he recounts a conversation with a farmer who was dismayed to discover that the worth of his livestock alone placed him over the tax limit, without even factoring in his land. The consequence, Clarkson warns, is that countless farming families could face a brutal choice: sell off land that has been in their families for generations, or be taxed into oblivion. Joining the chorus of criticism is Clarkson's farm co-star, Caleb Cooper, who has taken to social media to slam the budget and its impact on family farms. Cooper, who became a fan favourite for his no-nonsense approach to farming, expressed that the policy reeks of ignorance and indifference to the hard work of British farmers. Together, Clarkson and Cooper have become vocal advocates for Britain's rural communities, using their fame to amplify the struggles of farmers who see Labour's budget as a direct attack on their livelihood. At the same time, Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK, has rallied his own supporters with claims that both Labour and the Tories have abandoned the British countryside. Speaking at a Reform UK conference in Exeter, Farage accused Labour of declaring war on family farms and went on to decry both major parties for their failure to support traditional British industries. With the southwest of England, a Brexit stronghold, looking on, Farage asserted that many voted Leave specifically to regain control of industries like fishing and farming. Now, he says, rural communities are feeling more betrayed than ever, caught between the indifference of the Tories and Labour's aggressive reform agenda. Farage's speech drew cheers as he railed against Labour's tax policies and the Conservatives' focus on green energy projects over food production. He emphasised that for a country like Britain, self-sufficiency in food should be a top priority, but Labour's policies threaten to turn fertile land into solar farms and urban developments. Farage went so far as to imply that a new political force, one that respects the countryside and values British traditions, is the only solution to the current crisis. As Clarkson, Cooper and Farage align on the issue, support for Britain's farmers appears to be growing across social media, where thousands are calling for Labour to reconsider the inheritance tax cap. For some, the rhetoric strikes a chord, tapping into fears of losing the British countryside to soulless development projects. Others, however, have condemned Clarkson's language as incendiary, pointing out that his framing of ethnic cleansing is alarmist and risks stoking xenophobia and division. But Clarkson and his supporters remain undeterred. They see the November 19th protest as a watershed moment, a chance for Britain's farmers and their allies to make their voices heard in the heart of London. For Clarkson, this fight goes beyond mere policy. It's a matter of principle, a stand against what he sees as a government that values political agendas over the heritage and future of rural Britain. The people of Britain need to see what's happening to their countryside, Clarkson declared, before it's too late. The looming protest promises to draw unprecedented attention, with tensions already simmering between farmers, activists and city-dwelling Labour supporters. If the protest goes forward as planned, it could see Clarkson and his rural supporters clash with urban progressives and green activists in a high-stakes showdown for the soul of Britain's countryside. Will the government yield to the mounting pressure? Or will Clarkson's crusade end in bitter defeat, with the countryside he loves transformed into the very urban landscape he so fears? One thing is certain. All eyes are on London this November, where Jeremy Clarkson and Britain's rural community will either triumph in their battle to protect the countryside or witness its dramatic transformation firsthand.